Well, the oil spill damage continues to mount, as you've seen on national TV, going all over into Florida now, not just the North Coast, but heading right towards the Tampa, Jacksonville area. This is not going to see a quick end. I think that we're in this for the long run. I hope they can stop this well, but quite frankly, I think it could go on for a long period of time. Now, a lot of people throughout the country that listen to this show in other locations, out in Utah, in Minnesota, up in New York, raise the question through emails and calls to me as to why in Louisiana we want to keep on drilling. We don't want to have a moratorium until we get an idea about the safety of these wells. How can you destroy your seafood industry with the oil and yet continue to want to drill? And quite frankly, it's a tough call, and it's caused a lot of concern to a number of people that are kind of caught in the middle. I know lots of families down here in the Deep South, in South Louisiana, who have families that have two different occupations. They work in either the seafood area or the oil industry, one or the other. And you have a brother working as an oil field handyman, and you've got people going out in the boats and getting seafood every day. So those are the two main industries in South Louisiana. It's very hard to talk about shutting one down even for a few months. Now, quite frankly, a lot of the projections have been way overstated. The $300 million a month we'd lose in income, the 150,000 jobs lost, rigs moving into other parts of the world. I personally think that's exaggerated a good bit. Having said that, you can raise the issue that there have been some 35,000 wells that have been drilled in the Gulf of Mexico, one major spill. Does that justify a complete shutdown? I don't think Louisiana's done itself much good in the recent court ruling last week. A Louisiana judge, Judge Martin Feldman down in New Orleans, who is loaded with oil stocks, ruled that the moratorium could not take place, that oil companies could keep on drilling. And I object to Judge Feldman's ruling. He should not have been the judge to take the case. He should have recused himself, like many other judges with much less ties to the oil industry. They recuse themselves. I know one judge said her husband had a little oil stock, and therefore she didn't think it was proper for her to hear the case. Feldman had a lot of oil stock. In fact, on the day he issued his ruling, he sold stock in the Exxon Mobil company, and so it just didn't pass the smell test. It just didn't look very good to have Feldman's ruling take place like it did. Number two, it wasn't a very well-written ruling. I think that Louisiana is going to have its hands full up in the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals because there's a lot of holes in the ruling, a lot of generalities. The judge did not get into the economic specifics, which were laid out, quite frankly, by one side, the oil industry, and I think it could have been a much better written argument. So I'm not sure this moratorium is going to hold up. But it's a very controversial thing, and of course the rest of the country is using the oil spill moratorium as a major issue in races in lots of states, lots of Midwestern states. The governor of Florida, Charlie Crist, is calling for a special session of the legislature to consider a constitutional amendment banning any oil activity close to Florida, and everybody's jumping on the bandwagon over there. About 53% to 55% of Americans now say they're for a moratorium. They want to shut down the oil activities in the Gulf. So it's a tough issue, and Louisiana needs to do a better job of explaining just what its position is. It's not helped itself also. You know, under state law and federal law, Louisiana has to have an oil spill response plan. They had a minor plan put into place, many blank pages. We'll get back to you on it, or we'll file something in the future. The state did not carry its weight in this whole debate, and major New York Times article last week pointing out that the state had not really done the things it was supposed to do under state law, didn't make the state look in very good perspective. Best suggestion I've heard all week is by the Raging Cajun James Carville, political consultant, who's on my daughter Campbell Brown's show on CNN pretty regular. James Carville, who's from Louisiana, said we ought to bring in General McChrystal, Stanley McChrystal. Recall he was relieved just last week by President Obama from being the top general in Afghanistan. I personally thought his being relieved was a mistake. There were some things said in a Rolling Stone article. I read the article. McChrystal himself was not quoted. You know, these Army generals in a volunteer army are a rare breed that live a whole different life. I think he spent 28 days with his family this past year. So they're there without a draft going on to protect our kids. And I don't think what he did was out of line. He should have gotten a good tongue lashing, still been the general in Afghanistan. Carville's point is he's looking for something to do right now. He stepped down from the Army, and he ought to head up the entire Gulf response program. I think it's a great idea. He's a what did he say? He's a kick-butt general, and I think he'd done a heck of a job, or would do a heck of a job job in the spill recovery. So I would suggest that he do be appointed along that line. He ought to do a little kicking both with the federal government and also with the state of Louisiana. Hey, we'll be back right after this message.